Welcome back to I'm an Asset podcast. I'm Dr. Brianne Smith, and I am so glad you're here. Today we are starting the first of probably many solo podcasts. And this series has really been on my heart a lot lately, maybe because I've got two kids in college and one about to graduate high school, and we've been thinking a lot about what are they going to do this summer. They've not graduated college yet. The youngest is still about to start college, so I'm really thinking about trying to help them figure out how they can make the most of this summer. And it's really got me thinking about what are other high school seniors and college students doing to prepare for the summer ahead. And maybe that's not something you've strategically thought about before, so that's what this series is all about, because summer is just 5 or 6 weeks away. And once you get into summer, you might just accidentally let it pass you by without really getting any growth in this summer or getting ahead on some of your goals and plans for the future. So what I want to talk about is how you can maybe answer some questions you've been asking, and then we'll go further deeper into some of the things I think or hope that you're focusing on this summer and how to prepare to make the most of it. So I've got a few questions. I've got 5 questions that I think might be on your mind, and I'm going to help you answer those. So question number 1, should I work this summer or just enjoy the break? And I think this is a good question that you should be asking because, of course, you deserve some rest this summer. I know how hard it is to be in school, especially if you are in outside activities or you've already been maybe even working a part-time job, or you had a spring sport, even a fall sport, and you've got a lot going on and activities to close out the year. So summer could be a nice opportunity for a rest. And I'm not going to dismiss that at all, because absolutely I think there is a key distinction between intentional rest for the next 3 summers versus what I like to call drift, or spending the next 3 months with nothing really to show for it. So I want you to just think about this, maybe the last few weeks of the semester, as, an opportunity to plan for how can you take some intentional rest and how can you do some intentional things to grow so that you are prepared to pull up into the fall semester with real momentum and purpose. But I also want to make the point here that you don't really have to choose between having a great summer and working this summer. So I think we'll get into that some in the series about how you can really have a wonderful experience and also enjoy, especially relationships and time at rest. Question number 2. What if I have no idea about what I'm passionate about? And I think this is good. I mean, why are you asking about passion anyway? Because, maybe it hasn't even crossed your mind. Or probably more popular question for you is people are asking possibly, what are you going to do as a career in the future? Or what are you going to major in college? What is your focus going to be? And oftentimes you have to pick so that you have an advisor in college who knows how to advise you on what classes you should take. And even if you're a junior or senior in college, you might be faced with, all right, I've almost finished this major that I picked. What am I going to do with it? And I've even seen now some graduating seniors that are graduating from college in a few weeks. The common question is, what are you going to do after you graduate? So some of these things can really, weigh heavy on you. And it is a passion question, because not knowing yet doesn't necessarily mean failure, but it does come from thinking about it. So thinking about what you're passionate about can be something that will really benefit you in the long run, because it's worth your time. And to cut out the noise of everybody who's coming at you right now and talking to you about what you should do or how you should do it or where you should be or how you should move forward with either your first semester in college or your first summer out of college. Even if you don't have any idea about what you're passionate about, a good thing to do this summer is I'm not necessarily suggesting that you do a lot of journaling and quiet time about thinking about being in the world. Those are good things, but this is really an opportunity to get curious about the possibilities ahead. We've really had a lot of time to grow during either the high school or college experience. And while all of that time in college has really benefited you as growing up into an adult and a good citizen in society, what is going to be something that lights the fire under you and drives you to make a difference, have a purpose? And I think a lot of times being intentional about how you spend your summer can help you get curious and invest in answering that question for yourself. Because sometimes it's not just an easy switch on. In fact, most oftentimes it's not just obvious. It's something that you happen upon through experiences. So a good way to explore that is invest some time in it in the summer. Question number 3. How do I talk to my parents about my summer plans? This one comes up not only with my kids, but also just being a college professor, because before I start a semester, I have syllabus and I lay out when all the exams are. And sometimes a student will come to me and say, my parents planned a trip to Europe during this week that we have an exam. And sometimes it takes some time for your parents to transition into them being in control of your schedule versus you taking control and more independence over your schedule. And that can be a really hard conversation at first, but better now than later, because I think when you're intentional about your summer, it's good to have the conversation before summer starts so that your parents aren't making a lot of plans that fill up your summer and don't really give you the opportunity to grow in the ways that you want to grow and explore the experiences that you want to explore. So before you submit applications, before you make commitments, before you really pick what you want to do, I would recommend having a conversation with your parents about your plans for the summer and how you can develop some opportunities to spend time with them in flexible ways. But then you also have the summer ahead for you to be intentional about how you spend that time in ways that would benefit your growth, your future, your education, your experience. So does come up every year, not only during the summer, but also during the school year. So that can be a tough one. Okay, question number 4. What if my friends aren't doing anything this summer? Am I being too serious? And I would say, no, you're not being too serious. I think that people, they grow in directions sometimes that are different, and sometimes they have different priorities. And you can still love and hang out with your friends, but also be intentional about how you spend your time. I think as we grow up, and especially through high school, and we start gaining more and more responsibility, I think it's good to do it over time rather than you spent your whole life all the way through the end of college, never working a job or having any outside experience. And then all of a sudden you're faced with the big time career and you haven't really had any time to transition into that mindset, that idea that you work for someone else or even, have a business or deadlines, networking relationships. And it's kind of ends up being more like a cliff. So to avoid that happening, it's good to start transitioning into growing that experience and that resume over time. So I don't think wanting to be intentional about your summer with work and making some income and building your resume is too serious. In fact, I think it's pretty crucial at this point in your life to do it. Okay, question number 5. What does success actually look like at my age? And I think a lot of times when we think about success and we're talking about school, everybody thinks about the GPA and where you went to school, maybe even passing a AP exam or what your ACT or SAT score was. And I think these are really common measures of success throughout education. But there's really a different version here that I'm trying to help you see, or a different perspective as far as success that is more than just a number on a resume, but really more progress towards building your personal capital over time. And we'll talk about personal capital in a moment, but really just movement over just like arriving. So we're moving forward in a direction that is growth, increases, transition, progress. We're not talking about perfection or perfect 4.0s here or ACT scores. And oftentimes we get stuck in that mindset of that's the picture of success. But as you transition out of school over the next 1 to 4 years, these are really things that aren't going to be looked at in the same way anymore. In fact, I had a really good friend when I first started teaching. This is 10 or 12 years ago, where I learned what a curriculum vitae was, or a CV. It's basically a very long resume. And up to this point, even as an adult into my mid-30s, I had only ever had a resume, which I was told should just be 1 page and never be too wordy or longer than 1 page. It needs to be to the point and really outline all of your experience and education in one spot. But getting into academia, it really needs to be longer and have things on it that aren't on a traditional resume, like conference presentations, research publications, invited talks, being at, various service opportunities for universities. So these are things I didn't have anything to put down in those sections of a CV. And so one thing that my friend said to me was, just create a template and just start moving towards adding into these sections over time. And it really ended up being more like a way to make goals for how I focused on growth in academia. And so how that translates to you as a either high school student or a college student, maybe you're even about to graduate and venture on into the real world, is to take a look at your resume. And even if it's not what you want it to look like, or you don't have much to put on it now, go ahead and fill out a template. In fact, we're going to link a template for a resume below here. Or of course, you can reach out and ask us for one. But I think that just having a template is almost like a nice little checklist for goals to make progress. Because it does take time to fill up your experience in education and the leadership opportunities that you have and the activities that you participate in. It takes time to build those into a resume. And a resume may seem like, that's this arbitrary thing that, I only maybe need one time to get a job. But it really is more than that. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to really do some self-reflection on filling out a resume, and even in a beneficial way of look at all the things that I've done and accomplished, and what can I do in the future to really grow and harness how great this is already looks. And even if you don't have anything on your resume yet, that's exactly why we started this series, is to really help you focus on what are the things that you can do this summer to grow a little bit, add a little bit momentum, and get ready for the fall. And it's really like prime opportunity, because it's 3 months where you don't have to turn in an assignment, take a test. You may be studying for some kind of entry exam, maybe to law school or a medical school or something like that. But it really gives you the time to focus in on some really key goals in your life. And I don't think you're too young to start. In fact, I think this is the perfect time in your life to start this routine of looking ahead at where you want to be, looking at yourself to see where you are now, and really charting a path on how you're going to get there. How are you going to get from where you are now to where you want to be? So just a little bit ahead on what we're going to be covering in the next several episodes on into getting you ready for summer is this idea of what is personal capital anyway. And we talk about it a lot on this podcast. And we talk about it like it's, something that we talk about very regularly in our house. And we do. It's also something that I talk very regularly with my students about, and also my clients and other workers that either coworkers that I work with or employees here at the firm. And I think the reason that I talk about it so much is because it's who you are. You are the asset. So you are the asset means you are made up of all of these characteristics and qualities that you either were born with or that you have grown into. So some of your personal capital can't be changed. You can't pick who your parents are or what city you were born in, but you can improve your personality. You can improve your education. You can improve your skills. You can improve those things where your confidence might be low. You can improve your networking, your social networking lens. You can build your network and your relationships. You can grow an income. All of these things over time impact your earnability. And in a sense, when I'm working with clients and their management of their wealth, it can really impact your ability to work, your ability to have good relationships, your ability to just be a good parent or a good friend, working on things like your health, your wellness, your exercise routines, your nutrition. Those are part of this. Like if you're not paying attention to taking care of yourself, it can really impact your personal capital. So that's on the list this summer. And we're going to call that your presence. So how you show up, your energy, your appearance, your confidence, your health. So presence is definitely going to be a focus of one of the episodes. We've got 4 buckets in all that we're really going to focus on. Presence will be one of them. Also relationships, because really genuine connections, not just, random networking. There are really some specific types of relationships or people in your life that can really make a difference in your long-term success and growth. And we're going to talk about those 5 people or 5 types of people that you need to pursue or reach out to have in your life. And that's something that you can do this summer. So that'll be a focus. And then we're also going to talk about your skills and what you're actively building towards, because, we're inundated so much right now with all this AI education and how AI is going to change the workforce or the way that we work, and it's defining skills for our generation and generations behind us and ahead of us. And it's really an opportunity to hone in on what are some skills that I can focus on this summer so that I don't get behind, but then I can also maybe even get ahead in some areas and some summer learning that might be on your list. And the 4th bucket of what's coming is we're going to talk about income. So you might be thinking, I don't need the money. And if you're in that position and you don't need the money this summer, my takeaway for you is this is not all about the paycheck. In fact, it's really more than the paycheck and about what you learn when you are on the job or when you're working for someone else, and the social capital and the skills that you gain with, showing up to work, having a schedule, doing some things that you're really proud of, accomplishing some things that you're proud of, finding the right opportunity, opening other doors. It's more about what the work teaches you, not just the earnings. So we're really going to take a deep dive into the income side too. So between now and the next episode, because it's going to be 5 or 6 episodes in this series, pulling up into Memorial Day, we're going to try to get you ready for June, is take 15 minutes. And I want you to write 3 questions on your paper. And give yourself 15 minutes to really think about the answers to these. Number 1, where are you now? Okay, where are you in your skills, your life, where maybe you live, how you live, the lifestyle you have, Maybe you do have a job. Maybe you have some things that you're working on, sports, activities. Where are you? Number 2, where do you want to be? This is a really challenging question right now in your life because you might not have the perfect answer, but really maybe start with, how do you want your life to feel? Where do you want to be? What kind of work do you want to be doing? And what kind of people do you want around you? And those are good places to start. If you have a specific career that you want, that's also fantastic. But if you don't know just yet, that's okay. We're going to get there. And then third question is, what's the path or the general path to get where you want to be? What are some things you already know you have to do? So just easy example is, you are a high school senior, maybe that's where you are. You want to be a doctor, and the path to get there is definitely a 4-year education and medical school. And some other things along the way, like you need to take MCATs, etc. You need to be prepared and have the right beginning education to prepare you for medical school. So those are some things that you can spend some time looking at. And then what we're going to spend the next 5 or 6 episodes on is building a blueprint for your summer. Circling back to why I think this is important is because if you don't think about this now, you're going to spend all June thinking about it, and that's half the summer. So if we can prepare for it before summer starts, you're going to be ready to go. You're going to have a checklist of what you're going to accomplish this summer, who you're going to meet, what you're going to do with that paycheck. Once you earn it, we'll talk about all of that. And I'm really looking forward to spending some time with you, thinking about your future and how we're going to really have a successful, fun summer. So with that, I'm rooting for you, genuinely, and I'll see you in the next episode.